name is Richard Nohe. I'm Managing Director for the Central Region of the U.S. for Valenta. So welcome to the Valenta Insider Series. Valenta covers digital transformation, consulting, and virtual staffing. And we like to get together with our clients and tech partners and other members of our ecosystem and just kind of talk about some of the issues they're confronting, how they're working with Valenta, and how things are going and how we may be able to improve. So today I'm very pleased to be joined by Gary Gardner. He's the president of Life and Wealth Advisors based out of California. And Gary, I just wanted to maybe tell us a bit about yourself and your business. And many people are familiar with certified financial planners, but you're actually a certified financial transitionist. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that as well.
Well, I grew up in the Bay Area, so I'm a California boy, and went to school in Santa Barbara, spent a couple of years in Africa in the Peace Corps, and came back and entered the financial services industry. After a few years of being with a partnership, I formed my own firm and have been a practitioner for many, many years. I've always been interested in both sides of the brain when it comes to dealing with financial planning matters. So you have the technical side, which is the CFP, and then you have the personal side, which is the right side of the brain. And 70% of all decisions are made from emotional element, and with 30% being logical. And so people need balance in their life. So a financial transitionist has received expert training and a designation if you study and sit for the exam. It's all founded from Susan Bradley's work with the Sudden Money Institute, and now we have the subsidiary of the Financial Transitionist Institute. And it's a group of amazing people whose focus is a balanced approach, which the CFP board this year actually added behavior finance, beginning to understand that there's more to being a financial planner than just logic. So I have been in that space for probably 25 years now, but the designation's only been around for half a dozen years or so. And I really do enjoy that aspect of the business. So I've always used life events. So I'm the creator of the life event assessment process, which looks at life events. And we all understand life events: retirement, death of a spouse, sale of a business. I mean, it can be a positive or a quote unquote negative thing in life. But the common denominator for all people who are in transition is most of them are cognitively impaired. So the adage, a widow should never make a major decision for at least a year, is pretty sage advice. And going through COVID, we are actually in a very interesting period in history where the entire world is in transition. We actually don't know when we're going to get to the new normal, but we know that there's a major paradigm shift. And so a transitionist, a trained transitionist, helps people get through transitions more easily. I love the work, and it's the focus of my practice.
It's fascinating because we do think of financial planning as being somewhat static in two areas, right? You sort of look at the present and you look at, well, where do you want to be in the future? But you're actually going through a transitional process, and especially when you go through disruption, as you mentioned, the pandemic. I have twins in college, so we're certainly going through a transition, and thinking about it more holistically with the balance of the numbers and the emotions is a really smart way to do it.
Well, I find that most people appreciate the approach, but I still have some clients I've had for a long time who go, don't bother me with that touchy-feely stuff. So not everybody is attuned to looking at things holistically, but most people are, especially younger people today. I find that they're really attuned to looking at things holistically.
Yeah. And so, what? Tell me a bit about the services that you use with Valenta, and are you using the virtual staffing primarily?
Yes, in two areas, admin with a tinge of financial planning, and also bookkeeping. I have a CPA that was provided. He's the second one, actually. The first one went out on his own, and so they provided me another one, and that has been probably the most effective resource. He handles my personal as well as my business books,
Hmm.
and has been absolutely phenomenal. And uh, I really appreciate it. I had a bookkeeper on staff for years and years and years and years, and the timing was good. At the time my bookkeeper was leaving, I had met up with Valenta and found out that they could provide me bookkeeping, capability. So that was great. So I also use I have them use them in some cases to prepare PowerPoint presentations and research. I had a situation with a client in Massachusetts. We were looking at what the requirements were in Massachusetts for a death certificate, what information needed to be on it. I'm familiar with California. I actually have a form called the death certificate form, which is part of the state review process because there's information on there that people may not know. So it turns out that Massachusetts is not nearly as rigorous because my Valenta person did the research and provided me a copy of the Massachusetts death certificate. So, and I didn't have to do that. I mean, I spent 15 minutes looking for it, didn't succeed, and shoved it out the door. And the next morning, it was sitting in my inbox. So that's really that I find a very valuable service is those one-offs.
Yeah. So is that what you really see, that was really the motivation to kind of get rid of some of the stuff that you just overhead type of work that you don't really want to be doing yourself, and you'd rather have a resource that you can turn to that isn't a computer bot, but is a person that can get the work done.
This may be helpful to your audience. I actually go through when I'm adding an employee or there's a change in employees. I go through and do an inventory of everything that we do in the practice. And then those are assigned to each person in my practice. And each of those people go through and grade whether they love it. It's okay, I like doing it, not so much, or I absolutely hate this. And so if you're hiring an employee, what you would like to be able to do is take everything that everybody hates and give it to a person who absolutely loves
Mm.
everything that they hate. So you transition the stuff that people really don't want to do to somebody who really likes doing it. And it really helps effectively gel the team because now you have people not doing things they don't want to be doing.
Exactly. It's like a band, somebody hates playing the drums, but somebody's going to love it, right? So let the drummer drum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you look at one of the things we do is we sort of look at the end-to-end processes, and we break the processes down into their component tasks. And then we say, what's the most cost-effective tool for the task? And sometimes that's someone here, sometimes it's a person offshore. More and more, it's a computer bot, and you can look at automation in that way as well. But one of the questions I'm interested in your views on is work-life balance. You've talked about you spent 15 minutes and then you turned it to your virtual assistant to look at. It's hard to achieve a balance. How have you managed the work-life balance through your career?
Fortunately, a long time ago, 20 years ago, I heard about Dan Sullivan and I was in his program for almost 10 years. And one of the things he calls the time system. Which is comprised of free days, unique days, and prep days. That's not his terms, but that's what I call them. And the first thing you do whenever you go 4 times a year and it's an all-day thing. The first thing you do is map out your free days. So, for example, this last weekend, I've been mapping out my free days for the next 2 years, meaning where are we going to travel? What are we going to do? Having discussions with my wife and begin to start booking stuff. So I'm booking stuff into 2024 already, and pretty much have mapped out 2023 with what exception of one slot. Those are the free days. You book those in, and they're sacrosanct. So I always say on a free day, if you have $1 million idea and you go and write it down, you lose the free day because you did something work related. Free days are for rejuvenation and to clear your mind and relax, and it's really, really effective. With COVID, life has been a little more interesting, but I try and take, not counting weekends, not counting standard vacations, but I try to take 30 to 45 days a year that are strictly free days. And you tack on, 104 days for weekends plus holidays and whatever. I have plenty of time to relax. So I get my work balance by focusing on the free days first. Then, in addition to that, your days of the week are, where you see clients only on certain days, or you have prep days where the entire day is preparing for getting the meetings that you're going to have, where you're exercising your unique ability. And my unique ability is I help people create solutions that improve their lives with passion and humor. And that's Gary Gardner 24/7. And that's the space that I live in, and it's what I want to be doing forever. So that's when I'm happiest, and that's actually when I am the best with my clients and family and friends.
Yeah, well, it's a really good approach. I try to think maybe 6 months to a year ahead, but I really need to push it out a lot farther. You also end up getting much better rates, just from a pragmatic perspective on airline tickets. But you don't know these days if your airline is going to get canceled by the time it rolls around.
Well, then it's on them. But that 331 days before you're going to fly to Europe and you want to go business class using your points, so you're on the phone at 12:01, booking the tickets. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And so when you look at outsourcing something or using virtual staffing, how do you balance and how do you evaluate what do you move outside and what do you keep inside?
Well, I described our process, so to some extent that's true. The onshore team loves it when I say, "What do you want to get rid of now?" So, I like to ask that question at least once a year, because then we can determine whether or not it can be moved offshore or not. For me, it's really about competence, and it's a trial and error, I think, to some extent. I've been using virtual assistants for over 10 years now, maybe 11 or 12. I think I started working with Valenta about 7 years ago or something like that. And that's been a really good fit. The cost was reduced. The people that they provide are very competent. But it's like any employee situation. There are ups and downs in terms of what employees do in terms of meeting your standards, and sometimes they meet them, and most of the time, most of the time they meet them, and sometimes the work product is not exactly what you're looking for. So it's like you say, would you mind doing that again because it wasn't quite right, which reminds them that they need to up their game. So it's
and I guess you do that with people onshore as well.
Oh,
right?
Sure, it's true. We're humans.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess there's but when you look at your industry and the type of work that you've explained with the doing the transitional planning, there seems to be quite a bright line between client interaction and back office. And would you say that you draw a clear distinction in that way?
So I have a sentence when I'm hiring people, or my team could probably, you know, say verbatim, which is your job is to take everything off my desk and allow me to show up for a meeting 5 minutes beforehand, review what's in front of me, and be perfectly prepared. So the analogy I like to use is why do actors or musicians or whatever have an entourage of people who are there to support them? Because their job is to perform, and they take everything off the table that distracts from them having the ability to take that unique ability that they have and be able to express it as perfectly as they can. Same thing's true for me. If I've got to do a whole ton of preparation, before a meeting, which I do review prior to the meeting, but when I walk into that meeting, it's all there laid out, on the desk. Now it's all virtual, but it's the same thing. Everything is ready to go, and all I got to do is step in and, hi, how's it going today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look at you've been doing the wealth advisory for quite a while. How do you see some of the trends in terms of workload management? There's obviously a lot more interfaces with different platforms, and how do you see those overall trends? And if you can peek into the future, do you see any anything you'd like to highlight that people might want to be aware of?
I think the most important thing for people to understand that wisdom cannot be commoditized. And so people work with me because I've been doing this a long time, and I jokingly tell new clients, I said, please bring me something new. So, it's not that it's not new, because every human situation is different. So there's always a twist on it. But the bottom line is I've been there, done that. And for most people, it's a one-off. They're never going to retire twice. Well, I won't say never. They're never going to retire twice, or they're going to sell that business once. I mean, things happen that I have been there over and over and over again. And I see where they're in that process and what they need to do. And it's great that I have the tools from the Institute that allow me to share with clients and have the ability to make things go more smoothly when they are in transition. But as far as the industry is concerned, the commoditization of everything in the industry because of technology is apparent. I mean, the compression on fees for asset management just keeps things going down and down and down. So you have to find something in your business that makes you unique and that people are willing to pay for. So why does somebody pay $500 for a seat to see a play or an entertainer or whatever? Why on earth would you ever do that? Because it's going to be a unique experience. Paul McCartney, Beatles had their last concert at Candlestick in San Francisco, and they were going to tear it down. And McCartney asked the mayor if he could be the last concert in Candlestick, and he was. And my granddaughter, who's a huge Beatles fan, and at the age of 14, really, really wanted to go, and I couldn't get tickets, and I wound up paying $500 a ticket for us to go. So, and for me, it was worth every dime.
Yeah, well, there's that adage of invest in experiences rather than things, right? Because they're really going to be what you remember, and I guess that gets into that emotional piece rather than the hard numbers piece.
Yeah, I had I mean, I've done this many times, but one specific example of that was a woman, ophthalmologist who worked for Kaiser for her entire life, and she never married, she never had kids, but she had a plethora of nieces and nephews. And when she was retiring, she said, I'd really like to get to know them better. I said, well, then invite them on cruises and have two rules. I pay for everything, and you only have to show up for dinner. And she said, I can do that. And I said, yes, you can certainly do that. And she's been doing that for 20 years now.
Wow. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And she has, she figured out, as she says, yeah, I figured out who gets my money and who doesn't.
Yeah, you got to show up for dinner, right?
Yeah, that was it. And some people were interested and some people weren't. And so she has a relationship with those that were, and she doesn't have a relationship with those that aren't.
Yeah. You mentioned the commoditization of a lot of things in your industry, and do you see virtual staffing as a way to help you control some of those underlying overhead costs?
Well, certainly using Valenta's quality people accomplishes two things. I get to move offshore what my team really doesn't want to be doing. Trust me, I do not want to be doing my books. And so I have somebody who's a CPA who's doing them, and so it's great. And everything's timely, and he's done, and he's helpful, and he actually makes some great observations. But do I need to review the work? Of course. I know my business. He knows my business from an accounting point of view, but he doesn't really know maybe that dinner I had out, should not be under groceries. No, just kidding. Uh, Bottom line is it really is helpful moving things offshore. And I keep constantly thinking about technology and how it can improve and make things easier. So we had a major move last November. My next door neighbor sent me an email in August and said, I'm expanding. I'd like to take your space. I mean, she's like the octopus that just kept growing. She now has the entire wing, and having spent spending all of COVID working remotely, I decided I didn't really want to pay $30,000 a year for my single server farm, and so I made the decision to open up my home office, which is blurry in the background here, and I haven't seen my team. I haven't seen one team member in 2 years, and I've seen one team member once. But we figured out that during COVID, we spent a whopping 10 hours inside that office in between the three of us. And so I just decided that I'm going into the cloud. Has there been a transition? Absolutely, for us. I mean, there have been some bumpy parts, and we're still working things out. But at the end of the day, my commute has diminished, from 20 minutes each way to 2 minutes, depending on how my knees feel that day.
Yeah. Well, it's important to embrace change and adopt technology and and just look at different ways of working. One of the things I find interesting about you and your background is not only do you work with entrepreneurs and kind of thinking about business planning, their retirement planning, even their estate planning, but you're an entrepreneur yourself. And so, do you have any words of wisdom you can share about running a business as an entrepreneur?
Find outstanding people, treat them well, and pay them even better than very well. So, on average, my employees over the years spend 15 to 20 years with me.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, my office, my client relationship manager is approaching 20 years. My MBA, EA, CFP was with me for 17 years, and she retired a couple of years ago. And now I have a master's in finance, who I took a chance on because she didn't have any financial planning experience. But that was a very lucky find for me.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's a good fit. She likes working with the team. She's an absolute pleasure to work with, and her work is amazing. So surrounding yourself with amazing people is the most important thing. And now it's become more difficult. Um, I don't know if that perception is. I think it's just harder to sift through things because there's so many available positions out there. Uh, right now, it's 10, 11 million, job openings. It's just very, very difficult to find quality people, and I'm very, very happy that I don't have to. So if I do need to expand for whatever reason, and I'm not sure that's going to be the case, I have 47 clients now, and I just picked up a couple. And those things that I need to do for them, and get done, I think I can look offshore and attempt that first, versus if I do go to 50 or 60 clients, which is really not a goal. I've had 75 clients in the past, and I've decided that I think 50 is where I'll cap out. But I lose clients. Practice loses 10% every year. I call it the 4Ds: death, disability, um, dissatisfaction, and what's the other D? Oh, die. No, I said that one already. Death. So there are 4Ds. Can't think of them right now. It's like all this. You can only figure out 3 of the 4, or 5 of the 6, or whatever.
Yeah. So the what about you? This might be a bit of a loaded question, but when do you plan to retire, and what's your succession plan? How do you approach that?
I've been in partnerships in the past, and I've been for a long time, since 2005. And my succession plan currently is that I have a guy shared our office space who will sell my practice if I were to die before the age of 80. I plan to work to 80 and figure out whether or not I still want to keep doing what I'm doing, which I already know the answer to that. But
well, you're halfway there.
You're so kind. I think I'll keep working until I really don't feel that I am helping my clients, or that I'm hurting them because cognitively I'm impaired, or whatever reason. My wife has quit asking me when I'm going to retire, because I don't work.
Yeah.
And my grandkids ask me where I'm going, and I say I'm going to fun.
Yeah. Well, and you get a charge out of it because you're helping people. So it's not really that you're working. You're facilitating other people's planning through their transitions.
I get to help people every day of my life and get paid very well to do it. I mean, can you ask for a better combination? I am so fortunate to be able to do what God put me on this planet to do every single day. Now, are there things about my job that I prefer not to do? Yeah, I think I just as soon delegate reviewing my bookkeeping, but I can't do that. I run a business. There's just certain things, responsibilities that you have to do. But truthfully, I actually kind of like that part because it gets into the left side of my brain for a while, and so I think being a good financial planner, you really have to take both sides of the brain and be able to use them both.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, as since you're continuing to expand and you're going to be around for another 40 years, what's the best way that people can get in touch with you? Is it by the website, or what's the best way?
Yeah, our website is LW Advice. That's with a C.com.
Okay. And they can find all your contact details there. It's lwadvice.com. And well, Gary, I really want to thank you. This has been a pleasure speaking with you, and really interesting business that you're in. I'm very happy that you've been a customer of Valenta since 2015. It's incredible how time flies. But thank you for your business, and I'm sure your words of wisdom will go a long way with our audience. So I appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. This was fun.
Okay. Well, take care.
All right. Bye-bye.